See, we need to understand what parable and allegories mean and what symbols mean. The story of Jesus was never a real historical happening. The story of Jesus is to let you know symbolically what must happen in order for you to declare someone to be the anointed Savior. That's all the word Jesus Christ means. It's the anointed Savior. What is it to be anointed? Anointed means to have divine wisdom, a divine understanding, divine knowledge. Divine wisdom and understanding knowledge mean to know the truth and know a way to apply it to the consciousness of other human beings so they can learn it and use it. Savior simply means you are willing to sacrifice yourself and sacrifice what you got to do that, to exercise and share that truth and that wisdom and that understanding. Ain't nothing big about the thing. They throwing all the spookism out here that keep you all confused. All of you in this room do something godly.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is the Mother's House Podcast, and I'm Deshaun.
What's going on? My name is Corey. We in the building. What's happening?
Yes, we are.
And peace, love, and light to everyone out there. How you doing, cuzzo?
I'm great. How you doing?
Doing well. Doing all right. Doing just fine.
Good.
Yeah. So, you know who Professor James Small is, right?
Mm-hmm. He from Savannah.
Shout out. Well, he went to Savannah State. Shout out to good Professor, our elder, James Smalls. He's a very wise man. He's very wise and very intelligent. Man, he had an interesting interview. I'm going to put a link to Philip Shockley YouTube channel, because he always have the interesting videos about, epigenetics, post-traumatic slavery syndromes. I think the one that he was talking with Professor James Small was PTSS, post-slave traumatic syndrome.
Yeah, PSTS. Yeah.
PSTS, yeah. And it was an interesting listen to me. They were discussing about the transgenerational trauma that black folks find themselves in, and cause us to continue to push ourselves behind the bar. You know what I'm saying? That's from not getting treated for the traumatic syndromes during slavery, and it's been passed down generationally. Shout out to Dr. Jordan Groove, great book, so definitely check that out. But there's a lot of takeaways from this interview. A lot of takeaways. What one thing from the interview that you listened to that you took away from it, Shawnee?
Well, I took away a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I guess some of the things that stood out to me was him talking about how men do it towards women, like women do it towards men just as much as men do it towards women. I thought that was an important part.
I don't remember that part.
Oh, you know?
I watched the thing, but I just don't remember that part.
He was just saying that because he was talking about how he had a student who was being abused.
Oh yeah.
And then he was saying that men lash out at women, but women lash out at men just as much. As a symptom of PSTS. And I guess he's like a precursor to Dr. Joy DeGroove, who she calls hers though PTSD.
Yeah,
PTSD.
Post-traumatic slavery syndrome.
I feel like they're the same thing.
Yeah. It is the same thing. I think hers is more so from the psychological standpoint, and his more from the I don't know the difference between, because they pretty much the same thing. Mm-hmm. But his description and his study on it was before Dr. Jordan Groove made the major.
Right, he's been doing that for a long time. It's like the early 90s.
Yeah, so he's a true elder.
Another good thing he said. Sorry, I'm gonna be real quick. Another good thing he said was, if you have a school shooting or whatever, they would have treatment immediately. Anything that's like traumatic, you're supposed to get treatment for it, right away. You're not supposed to just kind of go ahead and not get treated psychologically or physically for it. And I guess that's what he feels black people are doing in America.
Yeah, so you think about it like the black community, we hear, I know when we were living on 4th Street here in Savannah, you hear gunshots all the time.
Oh, I used to like that neighborhood. I used to like that neighborhood.
Yeah, I still like that neighborhood. But at night you will hear gunshots all the time because you like in the city, and you hear signs and all that, and that can cause trauma. You know, but you begin to normalize it. You dig what I'm saying?
Right. He said that too. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, it's crazy that we normalize things so we get so adjusted to trauma. You know what I'm saying? We get so acquainted with it to the point where we just kind of like, oh, bad shit gonna happen. We know it's gonna happen. We just got to keep on living and keep on pushing. It was a great aspect, and the reason why African Americans in America are so very, very much resilient, because we endure a lot of trauma.
Right.
And it also shows our strength. So I don't give a damn what anybody says. They can't never say black people are weak.
Oh, most definitely not. Right.
Yeah, you know, we're too resilient. So him explaining that, you know, and him also, you know, stating that we have to know our history, the importance of knowing your history, so you can learn from it, adapt from it, and evolve from it, so you can, you know, pursue your future or create your future, or create and build from there. He also said something very interesting to me about the conscious community. And I thought, I never heard it, you know, explained or looked at it that way. You know, where he said, the conscious community, you know, the ones that most people like to gear up or say what it is, but most of those people are, you know, coming from, you know, they're talking from a reference point. So he hates the word conscious community, which me, you, and a couple of other folks we know feel the same way about the word conscious community, because you can't really describe who's conscious and who's not, because one side of the community is not talking from their reference points, another person is, but maybe those people who are not are doing more consciously aware stuff than the people who just talking about it. You know what I mean?
That was interesting.
Yeah, that's what's so interesting, because he was describing how, you know, the people who got the college degrees and the people who had the law degrees, going to college, you know, became CEOs, became lawyers, worked in corporate America. He said the interesting part about it is them not giving back to the community, but the people who are at the poor state, the conscious community, the people who are talking from the reference point, the people who will associate themselves with the Ifa religion or the Kemet ideology or the Moor ideology, they're trying to find an escape, where these other people, group of people, of black folks, who probably is the majority, as he stated, because he stated something very true. You know, black people are the most educated ethnic group in America right now. You know what I'm saying? We're very educated. But at the same time, our financial and economic base is not there. You dig what I'm saying?
Right. We
don't have the economic resources and revenue to be able to be like, yo, we on our shit. Well, we can, because we got the knowledge. You know what I mean? And he found that very interesting. I found that very interesting. And that part, when he said that, it was like, damn, why is that? You dig what I'm saying? He said it's because PTS, you know, PSTS.
Yeah, it was interesting. It's not an argument I haven't heard before.
Right.
But it sounds like he might have been the first person talking about this.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think he was. Yeah, it was interesting. Like, yeah, I get where he's coming from, and I agree with a lot of it. Especially, I always say, like, we can do better. Like,
right,
you know. So there is a lot of things that we can do to make our situation a lot better. You know, I'm not gonna say, you know, there's nothing we can do. Right.
Yeah, because we don't. You know, it's a conversation. It's more than just a conversation. It's a constant building. You build on these things to make your situation better. You don't just start it off with you start with a conversation. The conversation turns into an action. The action turns into building. The building comes to teaching the youth to continue the legacy on. You dig what I'm saying? And maybe us just having this conversation and listening and linking you guys to this podcast is starting that conversation. That conversation leads to some action. That action leads to you know, the reframing or reshaping of the black community. You know, he was also saying how, like, a lot of people who are poverty, who's already in a poverty state, you know, they advertise, you know, they turn themselves from the church, but when you got the blacks community that has, you know, middle class blacks, you know, have degrees, have lawyers, they make over 50 grand a year, they tend to still go to church, you know, they still put the money in the church, but when they in the church, they not talking or trying to reach, thinking about, or to the masses or to from the outside looking in, from those communities, they tend to look at it as, you know, they just want to be in a safe place. They don't want to be in the hood no more. Like, you know, that whole thing about, you know, I'm trying to get out the hood type of mentality. Instead of trying to put investment into the hood to make the hood safe. You know what I mean?
Right. That part was interesting too. And that is true. A lot of black people do. Well, most black people do. You know, when they get some money, when we get some money, we tend to want to move to the quote unquote nicer part of town, leaving our, you know, area. And I just feel like black people always moving.
Yeah. We stay moving. We stay on the migration plane.
Right.
And you know, and it's very true, that, you know, when you when you move to these nicer locations or these nice homes or communities, quote unquote, put that in quotation, you surround yourself with people who are not, you know, that's the, you know, you like he called it, you look like a mannequin. You're being a mannequin for that community. You're not really a part of the family of that community. You don't have a real cultural connection with that community, but you make it, you know, good morning, sir, good morning, ma'am. Right. You know, invite you to little dinner parties, but still, it's something, you know, that doesn't keep you grounded to that community.
Right,
you know?
Right. You moving a lot too, by the way. Well, it sound like it anyway.
My bad.
But yeah, that's funny. I was talking to some of my friends. You know, we always be like, yeah, we want to live in town. We want to live in town because, you know, that's like where the better areas now are. And, you know, most of millennials kind of want to move back to the city, and that's kind of like where the migration is for people who want to be quote unquote hip. But now that I think about it, now that I see all these white people move into the city, I was just kind of like, it doesn't appeal to me anymore. You know, I'm just not really as enthused about living in the city. And you know, we already lived in the city, so
yeah, we did.
But yeah, I'm just kind of like, I think I'd rather live somewhere off of Cascade or somewhere, you know, have somewhere in a nice black area. Unless I was really, really rich and get me a nice penthouse. That's a whole nother story. Then I'll do the city. But if I'm gonna just live in, you know, amongst some white people in my regular place, I'd rather have a regular place around black people.
Yeah, I agree, cause like I live in Cloverdale. I love Cloverdale.
You know, that's where I'm from. So you know what I'm saying? Savannah, Georgia, Cloverdale, Glenwood Drive. That's where I'm from. And stuff.
Yeah, you know, I love the area of Cloverdale. It's a black community. You know, middle class, suburb area, but it's a very black community, just like Cascade. Remind me of Cascade. Remind me of certain parts in Atlanta. That's another reason why I love it. And it's nothing like being close to, you know, to a community of black people that, you know.
I don't think Cloverdale middle class.
Is it not? It's probably not middle class.
But it's nice. Still.
It's a nice neighborhood.
Yeah, it's still nice, right?
You know, I don't want to call it the hood. You know what I mean? Yeah, because it's not that. But you know, I think if more people who were like the bankers, lawyers, they had the knowledge and possibly be able to pull up the money together to build a nice community for themselves. You know what I'm saying? And people are kind of somewhat doing that. You know, I hear about a place out there in Texas, they doing that. You know, trying to build a Black Wall Street type of area over there. Got a lot of places trying to do it. But, you know, he also stated something interesting in the interview about how a lot of, you know, people who are well-to-do blacks, let's call it that way, a lot of them, you know, get fearful of, you know, associating themselves to being too radical black. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, you know, due to the, the stigma of it messing up their income. You know what I mean?
I can understand that. Yeah. I mean, you can just look at entertainment. That's a great example of that. You know what I'm saying? They ain't gonna do too much. You know what I'm saying? They might throw a fist up halfway, but you know what I'm saying? They ain't gonna
pull the plug. That's the plug right on you.
Right.
Trying to say too much, like they tried to do with Lupe Fiasco.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's interesting. It's very interesting that that's the case within the black community, that we still feel that have that fear, because when during Jim Crow, which he stated something beautifully about it. Like Jim Crow is still happening today. It's still slavery. Jim Crow wasn't like slavery ended. It was slavery too. It was, and mass incarceration is a form of slavery.
Right.
You dig what I'm saying?
I agree.
Keeping black people subjugated in poverty, it's a form of slavery. It's a form of institutionalized racism. And black people are trying to break themselves free and from that institutionalized mindset. You dig what I'm saying?
Right.
That's why when I listened to Kendrick Lamar, The Pimp a Butterfly, it was such a great album, because it talks about the institutionalized mindset. You dig what I'm saying? And breaking free from it, and how it could look. These things are the things that we have to keep in mind when we try to, fight for liberation, fight for justice, fight for reparations. We got to keep in mind the pain and trauma that we go through, and the pain and trauma that we still inflict upon each other, amongst black men, amongst black women, amongst black children. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And we still got to bear in mind what the trauma we've been through and why.
Right, knowing your history so you can know why you act the way you act and why you do the things that you do.
Yep, from the trash.
Shut up.
From the trashiness to the classiness.
What's that even about?
I don't know. I just felt like throwing a little light humor. But I think that on the offset of everything, when we look back at our history, and we look back at realizing what our history has done, what history has done, or what the mistakes we done in our history, we be able to solve some of the missteps that we took. You know what I'm saying? And be able to move correctly and more unified. But we just got to get more people this knowledge, this information. But at the same time, it got to be action behind just giving conversation and knowledge. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I agree. I think before you can have action, people need to know what to do before they do.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. So, tell us what y'all think. We're going to leave a link to the actual description. What y'all think about PSTS, post-slave traumatic syndrome.
Right.
Also, let's just build in the comment section, man. It's just a conversation starter that we're doing here at the Mother's House Podcast. We probably touch on, I always highlight, post-traumatic slave syndrome all the time. And definitely check out Dr. Jordan Groove book, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. Definitely take a listen to Dr. James Smalls. He's very intelligent, wise elder. Whenever he pop up in an interview or anything, I'm on it. I love to hear his perspective.
Right.
But just hit us up on the comment section. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Hit that share button. Definitely share to your mama and your cousin too. Riding on cities, on phones. Focus. But I guess we're going to catch y'all later. Got to leave the last thing you want to say to the people, Shawnee?
No, I don't think I'll say anything.
All right. So we're going to catch y'all next time. Thank y'all for listening. Peace.
Because then we can put them in the room, we can get them the treatment, and they could get well. Maybe. But we're looking at multi-generational trauma over time, collectively with social learning, what you learn in your environment, adaptive behaviors, good and bad, right? Healthy behaviors and other behaviors you adapt to survive. And then at the end of the day, folks call it cultural. So I think there's poison in the cookies. You couple that with things that we do know. For example, we've looked at other groups. We've looked at Native Americans and multi-generational trauma. We've looked at Aboriginal folks in Australia. We've looked at Jewish Holocaust. Why have we not looked at the history of generations of slavery and enslavement, followed by extraordinary Klan behavior and oppressive policies and lynchings? And it didn't stop. It's not like slavery ended and the playing field got leveled. That didn't happen.